through doing that, I've kept my shit together, and it's easier to keep your shit together than have to keep putting it back together. Does that make sense? What's going on, guys? It's Jacob, Sunday Lifters. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be, or I'm going to be stepping into the sort of more into the lifestyle area of YouTube, I suppose. Just by nature, when you cover fitness, health, sort of longevity, all that kind of stuff, you are probably inevitably at some point going to have to cover lifestyle. Despite that, I'm going to sort of try and relate every point to the gym in some way, or fitness in some way, so that it is, you know, usable in just a fitness context, if that's all you're interested in. The topic we're going to be covering today is 5 habits that will help you in and out of the gym. When I say that, I'm not talking about, you know, literally going inside and then outside the gym. You probably don't need a video to teach you to do that, unless you're at one of them pure gyms where they've got like those revolving doors where you have to put the code in, and it's a bit over the top in it, but I'm sure even you are capable of getting in and out of those gyms. What I mean is, it will help you in and out of the gym in terms of your behavior, your sort of mentality towards things, and just your happiness and sort of your likelihood to succeed, I would say. Now, I'm not going to be so bold as to suggest that, you know, I'm going to be adding anything significant to this discussion. You know, there's plenty of YouTube videos that probably cover a very sort of similar list, 5 habits that will help you in and out of the gym. But I have got my own opinion on things and my own experiences that I feel I could add. And with all of these sort of top 5, the best, it's kind of subjective to the person telling you. Some things probably work better for different people. But before I go into the list, guys, as always, if you could drop this a like, a comment, and consider subscribing if you feel inclined. It does help the channel grow, and it's hugely appreciated. Number 1, organisation. Now, organisation, I would say, is one that gets more and more important as you age, or certainly as you take on more responsibility in your life. It's a pain in the arse sitting and planning and organising things, but at the end of the day, you know, the whole idea of organisation is literally spending a little bit of time in the present to help save time in the future. That's usually what organisation is for, to keep you on track, to keep you sort of aligned and working within a realistic time frame. So in relation to fitness, being organised would be things like, you know, turning up to the gym on the days you say that you're going to the gym, and having an actual workout plan for when you get there. It'll be things like making sure you've got the right food in for your sort of diet that you're on at that time before you get hungry. It would mean, if you're somebody who takes their fitness a bit more seriously or is competing, taking your supplements at the right time and having them always in stock, so you're not going periods without having them. In everyday life, that would mean sort of knowing what you're doing for most of the week. I would say 90% of your week you should know what you're doing in advance. It's always good to have that 10% where you do be a bit more spontaneous, you just have a bit of downtime if that's what you want to do. But you know, with me, for example, I said I wanted to do 1 video a week. I kind of have to know in advance because of my schedule at work. It's shift work. I have to plan around that, make sure I know when I'm doing my video, when I've got time to edit it, do the thumbnail. And then, you know, my other activities outside of work, I have to have a social life. I also play in a band. So I've got to be pretty meticulous with my diary and know when I'm doing things. In everyday life, it could also be things like making sure you're paying your bills on time. I'll be honest, in the past, I was really bad for doing this. Luckily, I sort of, with the help of my dad a few years back, got my shit together, and now I can pay everything on time. But it's about organising and making sure you have, you know, direct debits. They don't really teach you this stuff at school, but it is really important. And it would also be things like just turning up to the things you commit to on time. So whether that be like work, whether that be dates, whether that just be meeting your friends, it's like, you know, if you're organised, you will tend to be on time to things. as somebody who was personally really unorganized in the past, I don't think you realize how helpful it is to stay on top of things and make a bit of time for planning in advance until you've got to the point where your life was so unorganized, it's like you were kind of just not going anywhere. That was me in the past. Now I have to stay organized, I have to stay on top of things, and it's meant that through doing that I've kept my shit together, and it's easier to keep your shit together than have to keep putting it back together. Does that make sense? Number 2 is setting goals. Now, originally I was torn about setting realistic goals, but I actually just wanted to say set goals, because I think even having unrealistic goals is better than having absolutely no goals at all. At least you've got something. People are pretty scared of setting goals because they think if you set a goal and you don't achieve it, you're going to feel bad, it's going to be, not a nice experience, and they are fair concerns. I can totally understand why that puts people off doing it, but what you've got to understand is, obviously when you set a goal, you do want to achieve it, but there's also value to be derived from the actual sort of process of having a goal and even not achieving it, because what you can then do is analyze and sort of look at yourself critically. So an example of sort of an unrealistic goal for sort of 99% of people would be, I want to be driving my own Lamborghini when I'm 25 and on £500,000 a year. Wouldn't that be nice? And I'm not saying it's impossible, you can't be doing that, but it's for, like I say, for most people that's going to be an unrealistic goal. What you want to be doing is setting sort of actionable, realistic goals that are small enough that you can achieve them but still a challenge. And as you start to achieve small little goals here and there throughout the years, it gives you the confidence to set more goals and challenge yourself. For example, some realistic goals might be, I want to add 5 kilograms to my shoulder press over the next 6 weeks. How am I going to do that? I'm going to start doing 2 shoulder days in the week instead of 1, and on one of those shoulder days I'm going to really focus on pressing movements. It could be that I want to burn 400 extra calories in a week. How am I going to do that? I'm going to go for a 20-minute walk every day for a week. Or an example financially might be that I want to earn an extra £500 this year. How am I going to do that? Every month I'm going to invest 5% of my monthly income into stocks. They are all realistic goals that you could set for yourself and have a crack at. Not going to say, like, again, you might not achieve them, but you can then analyze the whole process. Why didn't I achieve it? Well, some months I didn't put 5% of my income in. If I had in March, of this year, put in the 5% I said I was going to, I would have made extra money. You know what I mean? These are all hypothetical. I'm waffling, but basically there's things you can change for next time. Number 3 is learning to listen or listening to others. Now, they say when you assume, you make an ass out of you and me, like one of those silly little idioms or sayings we have. Maybe it's just in the UK, but I think there's an exception to that rule, and that is when you are talking to someone, you should always assume that they have an experience to draw upon or a little bit of knowledge they can bestow on you. Always assume that. I think it's Jordan Peterson said, always assume that the person you're talking to has some piece of value they can offer to you. I'm paraphrasing, but it was something along those lines. I think that's absolutely true. I'm a personal trainer, qualified personal trainer. I've been now for a couple of years. I still go to my friend who does powerlifting. He was training way before me. He's not qualified, but he's got experience. I'm always asking him for advice at the gym. There's a guy at work who I've seen got absolutely shredded at one point, way lower body fat than I've ever gone to. He is just like a fountain of knowledge when it comes to sort of dieting. and nutrition. I've got a sports therapist who's helping me fix sort of an issue I've got with my shoulder and my lat. And his, again, knowledge invaluable, always asking him about certain exercises because he just knows muscles and muscle movements inside out. I really believe that you can make sort of real leaps and bounds with sort of your intelligence and knowledge if you have sort of the humility to admit that you really don't know that much, and there's so much you can learn, just not just from conversations with people, but obviously online, Google Scholar, like whatever you want to use, whatever you're interested in, and just never be afraid to ask questions. I hate it when people ridicule someone for saying, oh, that's a stupid question. There aren't stupid questions, you know, within reason, unless somebody's purposely antagonizing you. But yeah, to ridicule someone for asking a question, never be afraid to ask a question. And if someone does ridicule you for asking a question, they've missed the point. But most importantly, if you do ask a question, listen to the answer somebody gives you, listen to the value they try to offer you. Ultimately, it's up to you to decide what you take away from people and whether it is worth listening to or not, but it's worth at least giving them the opportunity to put it out there and for you to decide whether to take it or leave it. An example of this for me in a real life scenario would just be me and my dad. Like when I was younger, we had very different opinions about how we should go about life, and we used to argue a lot. I was set in my ways, he was set in his ways. I think as I've gotten older and more mature, I still don't agree with him on everything. We're not perfectly aligned on every issue, but it's like I listen to what he says and I do consider his side of things, and I think even though he doesn't always agree with me, he sees my side of things as well. It's mutual. It's helped us learn from each other because we're able to communicate our points and listen to one another. Being a good listener, it won't just like benefit you and your close family as well. Just being a good listener will benefit all your relationships. And if you're a dude, that's an attractive quality for females. Someone who actually listens, like asking questions on dates is just one part of it. You've actually got to listen to what the person is saying to you. So basically use this less and those more. Number 4, be selfish. Now, I'm not going to say it's not an attractive quality for somebody to have where you have the capacity to be a selfless person and do kind things for others. You should strive to do that. But what you do not want to be is somebody who is so sort of selfless that they actually self-sabotage. And that is the quickest way, in my opinion, to fall behind in life. You only have so much energy to expend, and you have to make sure you've got enough for yourself. When you get into the habit of just doing things for people despite not wanting to, just because you're afraid of what they might think of you or of letting people down, 3 things start to happen. And one of them is that you've sort of already at that point decided subconsciously that pleasing other people is more important than pleasing yourself. The second thing that starts to happen is as you leave it longer and longer not being able to say no to people or fearing saying no, the longer that goes on through your life, the harder and harder it actually gets to be able to do it. It's like any fear, you know, if you sort of go your whole life, you know, and get to 28, let's say, being afraid of spiders, it's going to be a lot harder for you to get over that fear than if you were a child and you were afraid of spiders and sort of, you know, put through it while you were more neuroplastic and able to overcome that fear. And the third one is going to sound really harsh, guys, but I do think some people need to hear this. Once you're at the point where you're doing things for people or saying things to people that aren't true or that you don't want to do, just because you are too afraid of what might happen if you actually say how you feel or no to someone, you've left the realm of being a selfless person. You're not doing it to be selfless. You're not doing it or doing it out of fear. And you know, it's kind of a little bit cowardly. Another example I can give that might help you see what I'm saying with that is if you don't commit violent crime just because you're afraid to go to prison or whatever the consequences of that, that is not virtuous. If you don't commit violent crime because you genuinely care about other people and don't want to harm them or, you know, ruin their lives, that is virtuous. It's not, you're not doing it out of fear. You're doing it because it's the right thing to do. You can't be responsible for people's reactions to you being yourself, saying what you believe in, acting in a way that you think is right. And if they do react negatively to you just being yourself or saying what you want to say, you know, do you need that person in your life at that time? These are questions you have to ask, and sort of look at the relationships you have with people and whether they are a positive or negative thing, and how you behave with those people. Are you being true to yourself? In fitness, being selfish can be related to the very principle of it, really. You know, you go to the gym, most people go to the gym just to look better, to feel better. It's a time for yourself. You should be comparing your results to yourself. Like, don't compare yourself to others. Comparison is the thief of joy. You have your own body, your own genetics, but it is a time, going to the gym, starting fitness, it is a time for you. I'm not saying, you know, you can't have gym partners, buddies who you go to the gym for, but ultimately what you do with fitness and the gym is all in sort of self-development. It might also be something like deciding that when you go out on a weekend, you don't want to drink alcohol. I can't remember where I saw it, but I remember a really good point from someone. Alcohol, it's the only thing that, you know, is sort of a harmful substance where people question you not for having it. But yeah, you know, be selfish. Who cares what other people think? If they think it's a bit weird, you don't want to drink, that's fine, but it's your choice. And the final point, number 5, probably, in my opinion, the most important one: keep your word. If you make promises or say you're going to do things, you need to keep your word, guys. It's just one of them things. It's a cliche, but it really is true. You're only as good as your word, and all you've really got at the end of the day is your word. People need to be able to trust you throughout your life. And more importantly, again, sort of relating back to the point of being selfish, it's like you need to be able to trust yourself. More importantly, every time you break a promise or tell a lie, it gets a little bit easier than last time to do it again and again. And when you sort of build a world upon lies, it's not a question of if you get found out, it's a question of when and how bad the fallout from that is. You know, we only have to look about a week ago or 2 weeks ago, whenever it was, the Liver King got exposed as a fake natty, which, you know, everyone goes, oh, tell us something we didn't know. But, you know, there are a lot of people who don't know about steroids and the realistic body image, who are just getting into fitness, who might have believed the Liver King and followed his work and spent a lot of their money on his supplements. I'm not saying they're not efficacious. I haven't actually really looked at them, so I'm not going to make any claims about that. But, you know, he got found out. He was lying and he got found out. I wager it will be within the next, you know, couple of years. We might see someone like The Rock exposed. We might see Conor McGregor exposed. Chris Hemsworth maybe. All of these people who I personally think are on steroids, and a lot of other people do too. I think in the future we could see all of those people outed as fake natties over this time. If they are, I think they will get found out. It's just a question of when. Being someone who could keep their word and, you know, be trustworthy to others is actually becoming quite a rare thing in today's society. We live in a world that kind of breeds people to be inauthentic, and like in some respects I totally understand why. It's a surefire way to get some attention, but avoiding short-term discomfort and breaking promises, not being of your word, is a bad long-term strategy if nothing else, just psychologically, because like I say, it gets, when you exhibit those behaviors over and over again, it gets easier to do it every time, and it becomes a bad habit. And as a little bonus point, I've kind of already touched on it in point 5, but being honest as well. I was going to make a point in this video about how I want to post in September. I think I said I was going to make one video every week until the end of the year, and I've managed to do that up until this video, which is coming out today, which is Monday. I was hoping to get it out yesterday, Sunday, but I couldn't do it because of, maybe I could have planned better. I've spent the day in A&E, so you know, I think I've got a reasonably good excuse. But at the end of the day, I set a target. I, you know, set myself a goal, which is point 1, and I didn't achieve it, unfortunately, and that's just part of life. I know now things I can do better. Maybe I could film every video a week in advance, so if things like that happen, things I can't control that just come up, I can get the video out on time, be honest, be willing to make mistakes. And again, if we're tying this all together back in fitness, it's like if you make promises to your friend, your buddy who you go to the gym with, I'll be at the gym at 6 o'clock, make sure you're turning up. Don't be wasting their time by bailing on them. Ultimately, they could probably still get a good workout, but if you say you're going to be there, make sure you are. If you say you're going to start a new plan, make sure it's done properly, refer to the other points, so you're more likely to stick to it and keep to your word, keep true to yourself. This is getting a little bit cheesy now, but you get the point, and hopefully why I think all these points tie together nicely. At the end of the day, guys, it's all about your attitude and how much you want something, but be positive. Hopefully these 5 points help you. Cheers for sticking around for this video, guys. If you haven't already, a like, a comment and a subscription is always greatly appreciated. If you want to keep up with the work I'm doing on my socials, I'm at Sunday Lifters on Instagram, Facebook and TikTok, and you can email me at sundaylifters@gmail.com for workout plans, coaching and sponsorships. Appreciate you tuning in. I'll see you back here again very soon.